Hello, I'm Jake, Mr. Jake, and I'd like to recommend a first-person shooter. That is, a first-person sword fighting game. Shadow Warrior is a modern reimagining of a classic first-person shooter of the same title. You play as a professional hitman called Mr. $2 Million. You also have another name, but that is completely irrelevant. What's important is it's a classic first-person action game in the sense that you face armies of enemies lacking any and all intelligence that try to kill you, and you must butcher them all using a variety of weapons. Furthermore, the levels are huge and littered with secrets and Easter eggs just waiting to be found. It truly is a gem for fans of retro gaming. The game is off to a great start from the very first second, as it starts off with Mr. $2 Million driving a beautiful black car and listening to fantastic 80s music, which immediately proves that even if this is not the greatest game ever made, it certainly is one of the best. The fantastic opening then leads into a slaughterfest as you methodically massacre over 2,000 enemies over the course of the game using an excellent variety of weapons, including a shotgun that's just a barrel of laughs, a crossbow that you can use to get the point across, and a flamethrower with which to lighten up your enemies. Yet the most important weapon you will use is not a gun, it's a sword. That's right, a sword. Mr. $2 Million is a professional hitman whose weapon of choice is the katana. You can slice and dice your enemies with it as you please. Decapitations and dismemberments have never been easier. In fact, one could say that the sword is a little overpowered. The game boasts itself as a game where you can take a katana to a gunfight and a gun to a sword fight, and strictly speaking it's true, but the reality is you'll be using the sword 80% of the time. That's because it's so powerful and so efficient. Most of the time you are not encouraged to use any of the guns. Exceptions exist, such as when facing flying enemies, and ones that explode like the banelings in StarCraft 2, but against most enemies the sword is both more efficient and more fun. Why bother with a shotgun or a rocket launcher when you can let your enemies surround you, and then execute a special round swing that decapitates all of them at the same time? Basically, Shadow Warrior makes me want to reconsider using a semi-automatic pistol as my weapon of choice. If I had a sword, I could chop people's heads off, I could disembowel them, I could dismember them. I could chop off their legs at the knee, and then watch them crawling on the ground, helplessly, bleeding like a stuck pig, and then I could finish them off with a single, unstoppable slash of my merciless, beautiful blade. That is, if I was a hitman, which I'm not, I assure you, retired or otherwise, and if my weapon of choice was a silenced semi-automatic pistol, then Shadow Warrior would make me want to switch to the sword. So as you can see, this is a fantastic game for sword enthusiasts. The guns are good, don't get me wrong, it's just that the katana stands out a lot. The katana is the true star of the gameplay. Now, let's talk about the story. First of all, This is not a story with heroes and villains. This is a story about an egotistical hitman, a ruthless corporation, the Yakuza, and an army of demons. There's no hero in this tale. Everyone is an asshole, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like real life, right? It's up to you to decide which asshole you can root for, but either way, you will find that one particular character is more likable than anybody else. That is Hoji, the demon who becomes your ally early on and gives you magical powers. This character is my personal favorite thing about Shadow Warrior. True, I love dismembering the opposition with the Nobitsura Kage just as much as every other player does, but Hoji is just so entertaining I could not wait for the next cutscene to start playing, hoping he would say or do something funny again. See, Hoji comes across as this trickster demon, a comedian through and through, who makes even more outrageous puns and one-liners than Mr. $2 Million himself. He's funny, he's got the best lines, he's got a cool mask, and there's a surprising level of depth to his character. Shadow Warrior is a story of redemption, tragedy, and defiance, and Hoji plays a central part in this story. I will not spoil that for you, so suffice it to say that he wears a mask for a reason. Now, the magical powers you gain after meeting Hoji offer you an additional way to deal with your enemies. You can suspend them in midair or knock them down and quickly finish them off. These abilities are powered by ki or chi, depending on whether you believe the subtitles or the audio. You must gather crystals in the levels in order to improve these abilities. Similarly, as you kill demons and Yakuza, you get points for your trouble called karma points, which you can use to improve your combat abilities, and for this reason, it's a good idea to use a variety of attacks on your foes. Do that, and you can be a 5-star mass murderer. In summary, Shadow Warrior is a game made for my generation. It's a throwback to the old days with glorious swordplay, gratuitous gore, and fun one-liners from both the protagonist and his pal Hoji. Overall, I don't know whether I like this game more than I like Blood Dragon. After all, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon had cyborg mutant dinosaurs with laser cannons in their eyes, and we don't have anything like that here. But we do have things like this. Aren't they adorable?